I am driving a new Brabus G800 Wide Star. It's got a price tag of $453,000.
But the luxurious perception of the modern G-Wagon was never a part of Mercedes' plan. So how did we go from this to this?
Well, today we're gonna drive both sides of the G-Wagon spectrum and find out. Oh my God, I feel old and poor.
So James, I'm driving the 1980 Mercedes GWagon, AKA the original G-Wagon. This thing's got cloth seats, rubber floor mats, a 4-speed transmission, and not much else.
I mean, this is so cool.
I love it, man.
Like, this is a machine.
Yes. Very little frills.
Very utilitarian, very German, and very 1970s.
Yes. It's just really good at its job, which is, well, right now going up a dirt road in Calabasas.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's a huge difference between this and the G-Wagon that we know today. Later, we'll take a drive through the canyons with both these cars to see just how much of a difference there is. But to understand how we got here, from here, we're gonna have to go all the way back to the early 70s when Mercedes decided to partner with an Austrian outfit called Steyr Daimler Puch and formed the Off-Road Vehicle Company, or Geländefahrengesellschaft. We're just gonna call it GFG.
And their goal with the company was to develop an off-road vehicle that could be fit for service for any military in the world, get you out of any situation if you're under fire, but also be comfortable enough that someone could take it to the grocery store.
Dude, those are the kinds of boxes that I like to be ticked, dude. Get me out of there and do it comfortably. They started developing this car in 1972 in Austria, and they tested the absolute crap out of it.
I mean, there's some really great footage of GFG testing the prototypes. It's so funny, and like, they're just jumping these things off of big dirt mounds and stuff. It's just so in contrast to how G-Wagons are kind of seen and driven today.
In that extensive testing, they developed some pretty novel ideas for the time. Stuff like using coil springs for the solid axles instead of leaf springs, and a selectable four-wheel drive system with a no-slip differential. The actual first prototype of this thing, maybe unsurprisingly, was built out of wood.
Yeah.
When you look at the G-Wagon, you're like, yeah,
that makes sense.
I totally.
How do you make curves? I don't know.
I don't know, dude. I don't have that kind of saw.
So they developed this thing over 7 years, and finally in 1979 it launched. It was pretty much an immediate military and commercial success.
Whoa.
This thing feels like a tractor in the best way possible. I don't mean that but as an insult at all. I feel confident in this thing. I feel like I can go over anything I want anywhere. I can't reiterate that enough.
Yeah, and you can see the product of 7 years of testing over and over and over. I mean, I always think of G-Wagons as, you know, a luxury vehicle, but when you tear away all that luxurious stuff, you see the purity and the simple elegance of this machine. And that is probably the reason that they went pretty much unchanged all the way until 2018 and still look the same.
Yeah.
That is 800 horsepower, Nolan, 10 times what you got. Wow, we are going the legal speed limit. This G-Wagon, tuned by Brabus, is the ultimate status symbol. It's got a million bajillion horsepower. It's covered in carbon fiber. The clock is made by a watch company.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a speedometer in the back seat for the passengers.
It's just everything.
This is what we think of when we think of a G-Wagon.
Yes.
But it took Mercedes a very long time to get here.
Yeah.
So in 1991, Mercedes introduces the W463. That is the second gen G-Wagon. They add things like leather interior, nice stereos, a V8 from the S500. In hindsight, the W463 really was the G-Wagon moving from a utility vehicle into a luxury vehicle.
Yeah, but surprisingly, Mercedes actually didn't really want that to happen. What? The G-Wagon was still a military vehicle in their eyes, and they thought it'd be way too expensive to adapt it to American regulations. So they just decided it'd be easier to start fresh And in 1997, they debuted the Mercedes GLE, which kind of helped kickstart the whole like sporty SUV trend that we're still living through.
The GLE was a great car, but the American market wanted more, and people were determined to drive G-Wagons with or without Mercedes' help, thanks largely to a company called Europa.
So Europa bought G-Wagons over in Germany, imported them to the US, and sold them themselves. And they had to be legal in the US. They had to do all this stuff. They had to crash test G-Wagons. They were so successful at this, they got to a point where they earned like a small manufacturer designation.
In fact, at one point, Europa was responsible for 10% of all G500 sales in the world, which is something that Mercedes could not ignore. Mercedes finally caved in 2002 and brought the G-Wagon to America, and everyone wanted one.
Yeah, in spite of a market flooded with super practical SUVs that actually drove like cars, Americans were still super hyped on the G-Wagon. And I think it's around this time period when the G-Wagon really becomes a household name in the US, and that period is the reason that this car exists today.
But what is it like to drive this thing? And more importantly, how different is the driving experience from the old original G-Wagon? Well, to figure that out, we're gonna head to the canyons and put these things through their paces, at least as much as is responsible for two extremely valuable cars.
Working in the garage can also work up an appetite, but unlike the project car, I don't have the fuel to figure out what to eat. Luckily, there's today's sponsor, Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Factor meals arrive pre-prepared and are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, which is perfect for busy days like today. And better yet, they've got options for everyone. I'm talking paleo, keto, and even plant-based. This week, I chose the Protein Plus box because I'm getting freaking yoked. It includes delicious things like a spicy poblano beef bowl. Get the nutrition you need with Factor. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code DONUT50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Again, that's code DONUT50 at factor75.com for 50% off your first Factor box.
So we're in the canyons now, and I have to imagine that James's car feels a little better than mine. My car has a straight axle in the front, which doesn't have the best on-road manners.
With the W463A, they changed the front suspension to double wishbone, so now it drives just like a regular SUV. New cars are good.
We have a tunnel here. James is definitely gonna gun it. James, that sounded so sick.
I gotta admit, I was a little surprised by the amount of noise that it did make. I mean, this might be the best car I've ever driven.
Honestly, I feel the same way about mine too.
Well, one of us is right.
I mean, my truck is really slow and it doesn't have AC, but I really love it.
I really love your truck too. I think it's cute, but there is no way that you can drive that thing every day.
Yeah, this is a really good, like, fifth car.
Yeah, like that's a car that you teach your oldest kid to drive stick on for the first time over summer break. If you can get ahead of that semi, we should do a drag race.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. I am full throttle right now.
Damn, dude, I let you start at a roll and I went from a dig.
Like I was standing still, dude. I've been driving this one all day. I was really charmed by it at first, but the lack of acceleration in this thing is starting to become kind of annoying. James, I think the G-Wagon is kind of like a Rolex, right?
I agree, but go on.
It's like originally was kind of designed for military use. It proved itself on the battlefield and then became very desirable because of that?
Yeah, just like a Rolex, it's a really expensive thing, but it's not just expensive for the hype. It's expensive because it's actually very, very, very well built. Well, Nolan, we're finally through the canyons and we are at the beach, someplace that I think you're more at home.
So So we asked at the top, how did this thing become that thing?
I think the G-Wagon is a perfect example of what happens when you get it right the first time. If you don't have to fix anything, you can just keep making it better and better and better. So now you have a twin turbo V8 with 800 horsepower that you can shift manually and take off-road. It really is the perfect vehicle.
Thank you so much to Brabus for letting us borrow that monster. Thank you, Blake at Found Objects, for letting us borrow this guy right here. I love it so much. And thank you, York Sand, for your help. Check out his book, all about G-Wagons. It's awesome.
Thank you guys for watching our videos and supporting us all these years, and your continued support, because we're shooting with 2 G-Wagons at the beach right now. I love you. 8 million subs. I can't believe that we're here. Thank you guys so much for your support. For everybody who's been here since before we had 1 million, to everybody who came in the last 1 million, this is all for you. To celebrate this monumental moment, as always, we have an 8 million sub sticker available at donutmedia.com, so you can tell everybody that you were here now. Go to donutmedia.com, get you one. They are super limited release. I'm pretty sure we're only gonna sell them for a week, so don't sleep on it. Guys, thank you so much. Again, I love you.